Hello, everyone. Welcome to Decent Exposure. We are here with Dr. Sue and Morgan, and I'm Sabrina. And today we are going to be exploring ulcerative colitis, and we're just going to jump right in. Morgan has been so great to just be an open book. So Morgan, if you could tell us just a little bit, maybe of a background, because I know you also are a nurse, so maybe from like a clinical aspect, a little bit about ulcerative colitis for those who might not know or those who might be recently diagnosed and want more info.
Yeah, so ulcerative colitis is a form of inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. And the other form would be Crohn's. Ulcerative colitis specifically is where the immune system attacks the large intestine, the rectum, or the colon. And it causes ulcerations, bleeding, diarrhea, fatigue, stomach pain, vomiting, weight loss, a whole list is strewn of grossness and pain. And there's a lot of medical treatments out there, pretty much a lot that go hand in hand with Crohn's disease. They have to do a lot with suppressing the immune system and reducing inflammation. And some of them can be pretty rough, but there have been some great, I don't know where to go with this.
Advancements, maybe? Like some advancements?
Yeah. Yeah, there have been some great advancements in medicine that have helped a lot of people with ulcerative colitis find remission and live a better quality of life.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were diagnosed, like what got you to that point where you were going in and saying something's wrong, and maybe a little bit about age, like when that happened for you?
Yeah, so it kind of has been my whole life that I had symptoms. My mom would say from the day I was born, I was very colicky, and I had a lot of bad poops. And growing up, I thought that was normal, just to have this stomach pain and have really bad bowel movements all the time. Because my dad had them too, but backstory, my dad has Crohn's. So that makes sense, but things started to really kickstart when I was about 12, and I started having like extreme and severe stomach pain that would put me out for a day. Like I'd spend a whole day in the bathroom crying, and I went to doctors. I finally got in with the GI, and we did a lot of tests. They went through lots of diagnoses like lactose intolerance, something called poking bone syndrome, chronic appendicitis, and then things really took a leap when I started bleeding with my bowel movements. And when I mean blood, I mean like bright red blood in my poops, like the toilet was maroon. And I was actually really afraid to tell my parents when that first happened, because how old was I? I was like 13 or 14 at that time, and it was embarrassing. So I went weeks without telling them, lost a lot of weight, didn't really eat because it hurt to eat. And then when I did tell them, we went to the doctor, and they kind of knew at that point what it was, but it was confirmed with a colonoscopy. And they just found my whole colon had ulcerations all up and down it.
So you had your first colonoscopy when you were in your early teens?
Yes, I was 14, I believe. Yeah, it was 2011. I still remember the day that I was told I had to have a colonoscopy. I was in 8th grade, and my mom actually worked at the school, and she called me into her office. And I was kind of like, oh gosh, did I not clean my room at home or something? She called me in and told me that I had to have, like, she just got off the phone with my doctor, and we were going to have to schedule a colonoscopy. And I just remember breaking down, crying, thinking that my life was over because it's a tube up your butt. I was terrified. I was 14. I'm in middle school. Things are awkward enough. And then they're telling me I have to have a colonoscopy. And I lost it. I was like, my life is over. So that was pretty traumatic.
Yeah, I would imagine. Because anything that sets you apart when you're that age makes you different, makes you uncomfortable. So that's got to have made that whole puberty time of life a really interesting phase to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me like UC, like with UC, there's not necessarily like symptoms don't show up the same in people. Is that kind of why it took so long for you to be diagnosed?
Yeah, and that's pretty much the same with a lot of people. The symptoms show up very differently for everybody. Sometimes just all of a sudden they show up all at once, and you're diagnosed right away. But most of the time, symptoms will show up gradually, and then it takes one big symptom, usually the blood. Blood is the go-to sign of ulcerative colitis. And that's when they usually schedule you for a colonoscopy. But yeah, that is the norm. But it sucks going through all of that because it's the doctors, it's all of you not wanting it to be what you really kind of know it to be. But there's people I've talked with who were in the process of like diagnoses for GI issues. And they just needed someone to talk to who had been through all that testing, who it didn't end up being IBD. So there are instances like they are doing the testing, right? They are starting with the least invasive effort first, which is correct. And there are lots of instances where it's not IBD. But it sucks that it takes so long. But it usually is because the symptoms do occur gradually until that one big symptom hits.
Well, thank you, Morgan, for joining us, talking just a little quick look at what ulcerative colitis is. We'll have some more videos coming out and talking about how it impacted you in terms of dating and your sex life and kind of what that process was like for you as you've gone through that. So check out the other videos and we'll see you soon.